Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. My name is Matthew Renner, and today I'm with Kevin. Kevin's the founder of Raptor Martial Arts, an online training platform for high performance martial artists. He's got 10 world titles in martial arts competition, and he's the founder and current operator of Revolution Martial Arts. And that's is that outside of Denver or in Denver?
Yes, sir. Yeah, just south of Denver, about
Just
15
south of
minutes.
Denver.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Well, I'm really excited because if you haven't yet, you need to follow Kevin on Instagram because all of his performance martial arts stuff, seeing even just motivating, seeing how like jacked he is. You see the pictures in the back. I'm like, God damn, I gotta eat better. So even just seeing that stuff is really cool. Kevin, what's your Instagram for people who are just hopping on here?
Just my name at Kevin Kowalczyk, Kowalczyk. Yes, sir.
Awesome. There's no way I was gonna try to spell that live. I was
Yeah,
like,
I
I need
know
to
it's a
do
tough one, man. It's a Polish
that.
one. It's got all kinds of weird Z's and W's and stuff.
Yeah. So I know when you first started training, you were really inspired by Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like as a kid that resonated with you? Do you feel like it's just because of the time you grew up or?
I think a lot of it was like the time I grew up in. Just watching like Ninja Turtles, was huge for me when I was a kid and I was training in my martial arts school. My instructor actually brought two of the stuntmen in that were two of the original Ninja Turtles, that worked on, other films and martial arts films and stuff. And I just saw this big picture as a kid of like being a well-rounded martial artist. That's always been like my focus and my goal, right? Is like I want to be a martial artist, not a partial artist, is what I always tell my
Mhm.
students.
I really
And
like.
yeah, and it made me want to get into stunt work and performance stuff and the extreme martial arts and competitive side of it. It kind of just pushed me and motivated me as a kid to do everything I could do in the martial arts world, to be as well rounded as I could be.
Mhm. So some kids or most kids just get right into sports, right? Baseball
Yeah.
or basketball or soccer. You went to the martial arts side. And you looked up to people like Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles. Why don't you think you looked up to someone like Michael Jordan or Wayne Gretzky and go into like soccer or not soccer, hockey or basketball?
Yeah, I think I say regular sports that most people do, basketball, football, baseball, hockey, soccer, all that is great. But the two things that I think were different for me was one, martial arts was such an individualized thing, right? That it was like my success or failure was on me, and it was how hard I practiced and how hard I performed versus like a team effort. I did play some group sports growing up. It wasn't really my thing. I gravitated more toward the individual side of things, like the martial arts. So that was super huge for me. And then the other thing was I just like being different. I saw a lot of other kids playing basketball and like I grew up in Detroit, right? South Detroit area. And it was like everybody played hockey, hockey town, right? Like everybody played hockey growing up and football growing up. And I was like, man, I want to kind of have my own, path, and I saw martial arts as being something that was so different. It's kind of what drew me in.
Mhm. Yeah. So how did you go from that then to like, okay, I'm interested to all right, I'm gonna be an actual competitor? Because there's a
Yeah,
huge
yes, sir.
difference.
Huge difference. Huge difference. Yeah, I started training when I was 5. I did some like little small local tournaments as like an orange belt and stuff. As I started to kind of like fall in love with competing, challenging myself, pushing myself, I found NASCA, which is, the biggest, I think it's like the NBA for karate. It's our big pro league, I feel like, which is the North American Sport Karate Association. I got to do that for a lot of years when I was a kid and a teenager, and it was like super fun and awesome. Um, just challenging myself against some of the best in the world, which was really, really cool. And then I went to college. I took a step back. I didn't compete as much. I didn't train as much. I started teaching more, which what's really cool now is I have a 10-year-old who's now competing in NASCA. And he's like, hey, Dad, come do it with me. So I kind of get back out there with
Mhm.
him. So it's something that's kind of fun. It's like part of my martial arts journey is I get to share this with him.
So were your parents supportive of you training
Oh,
in
yeah.
martial arts like competitively? Because like other sports, if you play hockey, you can get a scholarship, right?
Yeah.
There's a clear
Yeah.
path and
Yes,
ascension
sir.
to a career. But for martial arts, they're cool with it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my dad's a Marine, so he was like he loved the discipline aspect of it. He loved the
Cool.
fact that it was going to give me some focus and some drive. Some of the people that we grew up in around some of the areas that we grew up in weren't the greatest areas, and there were kids that were running with the wrong crowd and doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing. So I think my parents saw it as a way to give me some discipline and some focus in my life as a young kid. I don't know if they thought it would be a lifelong thing for me like it's become now.
Mm.
Um, but it's awesome. Like I get to do something literally that I love. I get to do something, and you know this, teaching, running 3 schools, and the things that you do. Like it's a way of life. It really is. And I love that I get to share it with my students. I love that I get to do it with my kids. I love that I get to travel with my kids. I get to do my passion. I think
Mm.
there's so many people that have jobs they hate. They hate going to work every Monday. They dread getting up and going to the office. It's like life's too short to not do something that you love and you're passionate about. So I love the fact that I get to do something that I love and I happen to be pretty good at it. So that it's a fun thing. So super blessed by that.
So it wasn't like you were a kid and had like problems with focus or something. They just thought, oh, this will be fun for him. Maybe he'll like it. And then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
benefits kind of came later.
Yeah, the funny thing is, my instructor didn't teach a whole lot of kids back then. There were some kids that trained, but it was a lot of like older kids, teenagers, stuff like that, and some adults. And my sister worked for an car rental place at the airport. He was an airplane mechanic. They
Mm.
kind of met and were dating, and that's kind of like how I kind of like got in. And it was like I think he thought I was gonna quit, like oh, just put the kid in the corner and go do 500 punches on the bag, and
Yeah.
just really hard classes. Eventually, this kid will quit. But I just kept coming back. I just kept coming back, coming back, coming back. Um, so it was really kind of a unique experience. But
Are
yeah,
they still
martial.
together?
What's that?
Are they still together?
No,
No.
no.
Was that awkward? Like, okay, you broke up and now you're still my martial arts
It was
teacher?
a little weird. Yeah, it was a
A
little
little
weird.
weird.
It was a little
Okay.
weird. But I actually later in life like introduced him to his wife. I ended up teaching like a satellite program, and her son was training, and I was like, hey, you guys would be a good connection, and like they're happily married. They've been together for a long time, and
Wow.
kind of funny.
Okay.
Kind of funny how it
Cool.
goes full circle there.
So
But
hooking up your sister's exes with other guys afterwards. All right.
yep, yep.
Funny how that
Sharing
works.
the
So did you ever have to get into like a real fight at any point when you were a kid or a young
oh
adult?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Tell
yeah.
me about
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, I grew up like I said in kind of a tough area. There was all kinds of different divides, whether it be racial or what town you grew up in or what high school you went to, things like that. And there's a lot of times where we ended up having to defend ourselves from older kids or getting jumped at the park and things like that. I mean, it's just kind of how we grew up there. Obviously, like martial arts is for self-defense, so we were always taught never to be a bully, never to go out and start the fights. But sometimes you have to defend yourself or you have to defend your friends, and that was just kind of part of life growing up that way.
was there a certain fight that you remember distinctly? Like you remember how it started and what
Um,
happened?
there's
Just to
so
send.
many. There's
All right, tell
so
me one. Give
many.
me a good one.
There's so many.
So many? What are you just fighting the hood? Like what are you
There's
doing?
so many, bro. Yeah. Well, one is I had a kid that used to bully me all the time. I was probably about 7, 8. He was about 16. He's a lot older. And him and his 2 friends chased me home from their park, which was like a block away from where I lived. But,
Yeah.
that was their side of the street kind of thing. They chased me home with steel baseball bats. They wanted to jump me and beat me up, and that was pretty crazy. So I remember my dad gave me this like golden like ring that it was like for my birthday or something. It had like a dragon on it or something. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But this kid stole it from me, you know, and I was a younger kid. There was 3 of them. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So my dad ended up calling this kid's dad up and was like, hey, you and your son meet me at the corner. And I was like, oh shoot, like something's gonna go down. So we met, they met. He's like, hey, this happened. He needs to give it back right now, or there's gonna be problems. The kid gave me back the ring. I thought things were over. The next day at school, him and his buddies tried to jump me, and it was on. Like it was just fist fight, man. It was like a scene out of Cobra Kai or something. It was fun.
Yeah. You're like
Yeah.
flipping over banisters and stuff and falling down
Oh
flights of
yeah,
stairs.
yeah, crazy, crazy stuff. One of my favorite stories was in middle school, though. I had a kid that was bullying me for weeks and weeks and weeks. And finally, just this kid, I don't know. He had enough of me not responding. He decided to shove me and push me up against the lockers. And I said, all right, let's go. Let's do this thing. And everybody crowded around, fight. Like it was pretty cool. This big crowd comes up
Yeah.
and he throws a punch at me and I ducked it and he hit the locker behind me and broke his hand. And this kid
Ah.
was the tough kid of the school, and he just started crying in front of the whole school, holding his hand, ran off to the bathroom. And it was like ever since that day, everybody's like, "Don't mess with this guy. Like he's a martial artist and all this stuff." So
Oh,
you're-
amazing.
I've had fights where I've had to actually defend myself and strike, and then I've also had other fights where I was able to kind of get out of situations like that too.
Mm. So if a kid comes to you and like one of your students, like, hey, I'm getting bullied. Maybe the parent comes to you like, hey, my
Yeah.
son's been getting pushed around at school. As martial arts teachers, we can't always say like punch a kid in the face, right? Like we can get in
Right.
trouble,
Yes,
right? So
sir.
like, what do you say to them so that they can efficiently either get out of the situation or defend themselves if they need to? Like, do you teach that?
Absolutely. Yeah, like the biggest thing I always tell our students is like I never advocate you fighting. I never want you to be a bully. I don't want you to, go in and hit somebody. Like that's not allowed. It's not tolerated. However, there's this problem in the schools now with the zero tolerance, right? Where like if a kid is even trying to defend himself, if a kid's even like shelling up and blocking and somebody's hitting him, they both get suspended, right?
Hmm.
At least here it's that way. So I've had several students come to me and say, I don't know what to do. So we have steps, like talk to the principal, talk to the teacher, make sure your parents know what's going on, befriend the kid, ask him like, hey, can we just be friends? Can we just get along? Like, why are we, arguing? Make a joke, ignore them, walk away from them. There's all these like steps that I want kids to follow. But at the end of the day, when it comes right down to it, if somebody's being physical with you, if they're trying to hurt you, they're being aggressive, they're hitting you, they're pushing you, they're being violent with you, you have to defend yourself.
Hmm.
You have to defend yourself. And that's just how I teach in my school, that I would rather a student get in trouble for defending themselves than get a call that he got beat up, that somebody was punching and kicking and wailing on him. And we've had this happen a lot where kids are afraid to use their martial arts. They're afraid to defend themselves because they don't want to get in trouble with their parents or their karate instructor or the school or whatever like that. I think it's important that kids know that fighting is like a last case result kind of, or a resort thing, but there are times where you do have to stand up for yourself.
Hmm.
You
So
know,
what would you show them like first move? Like, all right, some kid pushes you. Are you showing them back like all right, roundhouse kick to like the ribs or like
jump,
what's the
spinning
first
heel
move you
kick to
show?
the face. No, 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 no. I think the first thing is being able to use your voice, right? So we've learned just through doing this for so many years, teaching so many kids the last almost 16 years now that we've been here in Colorado. Kids will not verbally defend themselves if they feel they can't physically defend themselves. So it all starts on the training floor where if we're teaching you confidence and we're teaching you these physical skills of how to block and protect yourself, you're gaining a confidence that you carry yourself differently. And a lot of the times, if you use that confidence, it will shut the situation down.
Hmm.
So it's the kids that tend to have their shoulders slumped and their head down, and they're not really full of confidence. They kind of walk around like they don't like themselves, or they're kind of sad or down. That are easy targets, right? So the first move I would say is you need to stand up to the bully. You need to pull your shoulders back. You need to look him in the eyes. You need to speak with a loud, clear, assertive voice and tell him enough. I'm not afraid of you. Stop it. And if the kids stand up confidently and they verbally defend themselves that way, a lot of the times that will deter a situation from even happening.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things I love that because one of the things we talk about with parents all the time is if your child's or just people in the community, if your child's already getting bullied, it's not too late, but it's like you're already in a really bad situation. It's like really hard to get
Yep.
out of. You can talk to
Absolutely.
the principal, you can talk to the teachers. They're not always, sometimes their hands are tied. There's not always much they can do. And it's just like really rough. Like that's why it's so important that, like you said, like we have two stances we teach. We teach like wimpy kid. Wimpy kid is like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like head down, shoulders slumped, eyes down, soft spoken, right? And then we talk about super kid. Super kid is chest out, chin up,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Back
sir.
straight, loud and clear. And parents need to teach that first. And that's something that martial arts does almost better than anything. It's like, parents will come to us once there's already an issue, but it's like, okay, why don't we learn confidence first, right? And they're not learning that confidence because they're not in my opinion, like they're not in situations where they're always getting to just talk and learn with other kids because when class is over, they're going right to their iPad, but they're going right to whatever video screen they're doing. They don't get a
Yep.
chance to actually like build those communication skills. Then when something comes up, they're just like, I don't know what to do. And then it's like, oh, here, help my child. He's getting bullied. And it's like, okay, great. But like, you're really going to build the way it's really going to help more than anything is just having confidence, not even knowing how to throw a punch or a kick,
Yes,
right?
sir. No, I agree 100%. A lot of the times these kids can't make eye contact. It comes down to little things too, like when we're teaching, right? You see kids that are just constantly like on a screen, like you said, right? And mom and dad will say, "Hey, how was your day?" And they're just they're buried. Like, can you pause and take a look at somebody, make eye contact with, like most kids can't even just make eye contact with somebody, right?
Hmm.
And speak and talk, right? We have, I'm sure like you guys do too, a leadership program where we let these kids come up in front of the class and lead a warm up or lead a stretch. And that confidence they gain from being in front of people. Now, in the beginning, they're nervous and scared to do it, right? But that confidence that they gain helps them in everything they do in their life, right? So those are the kids that aren't being bullied. Those are the kids that we take that they come in and they're nervous and they're scared and they're timid their first class. And 6 months later, they're the strong, confident leader where not only are they not getting bullied, they're standing up to the kids that are bullying other kids, right? Like, hey,
Mm.
don't do that. Why are you being mean to that person? Like, that's not cool, right? So that's kind of, I think, a big thing that we get to do in the martial arts world is empower this generation that's going to like make that shift in our communities.
Mm. Very
It's
cool.
huge.
So besides the life skills that you're teaching in your martial arts school, you have another side, which is Raptor, which is the
Yes.
online training platform, education center for people who want to take their martial arts to the next level, right?
Yes,
They're
sir.
like performance martial arts. So is that something you figured out when you were done your competitive career? Or I don't even know. Are you still competing?
I am still competing. I'm
Okay,
kind of
cool.
like I'm kind of at the tail end of it like right now, you know?
Okay,
I'm kind of on that cusp of like I need to focus more on coach and dad, right? Because my
okay,
son's like killing it and stuff. And he needs that in me. So I feel like a lot of times we go to competitions and he's on one side of the room and I'm on the complete other side of the ballroom and there's 20 rings in between us and it's hard to like compete and watch him at the same time. It's this like juggling act right now, but
yeah.
I love to compete. I still have that itch and that drive, but my passion is shifting more now to coaching. It's helping the next generation, and that's one of the cool things we get to do with Raptor. Is there's a lot of great programs out there that teach martial arts and give curriculum, but ours is a virtual interactive platform, which is really cool. It's something completely different. There's nothing else like it. Um, we partnered with a really great program, Lightspeed VT. They work with like Tony Robbins and all these other huge interactive platforms, and we're the first kind of martial arts company to be on this platform. So a student can be taking a lesson and it'll pop up questions at the end like, okay, today we were learning the side kick. What part of the foot do you hit with? And two answers will pop up, the heel or the ball of the foot. And if they click the right answer, it takes them to the next lesson. If they click the wrong answer, it makes them go back and repeat the lesson. So it's kind of like an interactive training system. And the great thing for martial arts school owners is they can set assignments and they can say, hey, so we're going to be working on these specific skills or this specific weapon or whatever the drills are. And they can email blast out to their students what the lessons are. So you, as a martial arts school owner, for example, you tell your students, I'm sure, all the time to practice, right? Because
Yeah.
practice is how we get better at anything. Well, how do you know if they practice?
Mm.
That's the hard part. So now there's accountability. So when I tell my students, hey, I want you guys to go home and I want you to work on this specific form or this kicking drill or sparring drill or whatever it may be, I want you to practice it 6 times at least over the next month or the next 2 weeks or whatever it is. You set the parameters. I can log in and I can see who logged in and who did the lessons. So the same thing they're learning in the studio, they have a reminder now to practice at home, a video curriculum, so they're not making mistakes, they're not forgetting it. They're getting the same thing in class as they are at home, and they can interact and train with it. And I get accountability reports and report cards, and I can see who's actually practicing and training. So it's pretty cool. I think it's going to really take our sport and what we're doing in the martial arts world to the next level.
So are parents usually coordinating that with the kids? Are they usually watching it with them, or they just sign in on their own and kind of do it?
Both. I mean, we have a lot of parents that train with their kids at home, which is really cool because we get parents that train in martial arts, obviously, but we have some parents that they don't really want to train in martial arts. They feel awkward putting like a uniform on and getting on the floor. You have parents that are kind of like that, but they'll
Yeah.
definitely do a lesson at home with their kids. So
Hmm.
they'll throw it up on the TV and they'll be like, all right, let's go. We're working on this today. And like they'll practice with their kids, which is super fun. Some parents love to use it as a great alternative to video games. So they're like, hey, I'm going to cook dinner for the next 30 minutes and they'll throw like a 15-minute lesson on. And the kids are in the living room and they're practicing and they're working on their forms and they're doing stuff with the interactive video. So it's being used in a lot of great ways. And since we did it, I've seen our students have a huge spike in their physical skills.
So it's not just necessarily for competitors, it could be also someone who's more beginner.
Yeah, the great thing about it is it's designed literally to take anyone from any level, wherever you're at, and up your skills, right? So we have jujitsu schools that don't even do karate. We have jujitsu schools that are teaching our extreme martial arts program. We have taekwondo schools. We have Krav Maga schools. One of my great friends, Jason Flame, he's in Moore Park, California. they're more of a Krav Maga school, right? But they teach our extreme stuff, which is really, really cool too. So it's designed for any level. You don't have to be like a super advanced high level athlete, but if you are, there's stuff in there too to help take you to that next level too. So it's very, very cool the way we designed it.
What's a feature that it doesn't have yet that you're either working on or wish it had, and like, okay, this is something I want to see in the software or program in the future.
Yeah, so our MMA program is the next level, which is really
Okay.
cool. So we currently have, if you're for there's a lot of people that are going to watch this that are Raptor school owners already. We have 36 months of forms. 36, so it's meant to be an upgrade program, right? So once they go to your upgrade program, it's got 36 months of extreme forms. It's got 8 different weapons curriculums, which is really, really cool, and it's got sparring drills. We didn't really want to tackle like the self defense side of things because every different martial arts school has its own self defense system. At our own school, we personally started like a MMA system, an MMA program separate from our karate program because we already do kickboxing, Muay Thai, we do Jiu Jitsu, we do a lot of things already in our student curriculum. So we kind of started this really cool MMA program that's been bringing in a lot of members and taking our existing students to the next level. And I'm like, man, that's the next feature of Raptor. So this year we're working on there'll be a forms, a weapons, a kickboxing, and then there'll be an MMA platform as well,
Mhm.
where people that want to learn striking and jujitsu and grappling and how to put the arts together, that'll be a virtual interactive system as well, which will be another branch of what we're already
Hmm.
doing.
So do you train in MMA also, like personally?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. So do
I've
that.
been
Do you do that at your school or you go somewhere else?
both. So I've been doing jujitsu with my trainer's Mike Brown. He's worked with a lot of UFC fighters and stuff. I've been training with him for about 13 years, which is really, really cool. It's something that was totally different. It was humbling to go back to being a white belt, and learn a whole new art. So I've been doing that for about 13 years now. I
Cool.
started training with Justin Houghton and a few other guys that fight for Bellator and Glory and UFC in my kickboxing stuff, which really helped kind of evolve my striking. And I'm really good friends with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who's a UFC fighter. He comes out, trains, at our school. I go out and train with him several times in South Carolina at his school. He's become a great friend and brother to me. And just kind of being able to take all these different assets of martial arts and put them together. Again, my goal is never to be like the best comma guy or the best, forms guy. It was like, can I be a well-rounded martial artist? Can I be a world champion in forms? Can I be a professional full contact fighter? Can I be a good martial arts business owner and coach? Like I always kind of wanted to see how many ways I can diversify my martial arts journey.
Mhm. So if someone comes up to you and they're like, "Yeah, like you do performance martial arts, like it's like martial arts dancing," like what do you say to them?
Yeah, I say you're right. I do, and I also
Okay.
and I also fight full contact. It's funny because you'll see people that will say comments like, "Oh, that would never work in a real
Yeah, a
fight."
street fight. Yeah.
Yeah, in a street fight, I'm not going to do a 540 and try to kick you in the face, but
Yeah.
if you know how to do that skill and you know the discipline and the practice that it takes and the muscle coordination and the agility that it takes to do one of those high level moves, you don't think I couldn't do a basic roundhouse kick upside someone's head? It's like it's
Right.
almost kind of silly, right? Like you have to have the basic fundamentals before you can even go to that advanced level, right? So
Right. It's like if you could do a 360 dunk, you can obviously like shoot a free throw or a layup.
exactly. Like I know you had Reed on here not long ago, Reed Presley, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Love that dude. Great martial artist, great human. Love that dude. Super great dude. And people see him like doing double bow staff and they see the crazy coordination and the talent that guy has. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, that would never work in a fight," kind of thing. And it's like, you don't think all the years of training he can't throw basic strikes and defend himself? Like that dude's
Yeah.
probably a beast.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a misconception when people see sport karate. They don't understand it's not meant to be a fight. It's not meant to be, it's meant to be an art.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. And I think we need to really push in the martial arts industry. Not in martial arts, actually, because martial arts industry gets it, right? But like outside, well, besides jujitsu guys, they don't, they probably don't. People who've only done jujitsu, right? They
Yeah.
started as adults, they'll never get that part, I don't think.
No, no.
So when you think about yourself now, do you think of yourself like martial artist and then entrepreneur, like or teacher and slash entrepreneur, like which one do you think goes first in your mind? Are you a martial artist more? Are you
To
a business
me,
owner more?
yeah, to me, I'm a dad first. I mean,
Dad
that's
first.
gotta be, yeah, man. My kids are like the most amazing. I got two amazing boys, man. They're the most amazing thing in the world. And if like all the martial arts stuff stopped and ended tomorrow, they would still have my heart. Like I'm a
Yeah.
dad first. And then after that, I'm a business owner, I would say, because that's how I provide for them, how I provide a life for them. And that comes down to, whether it's Raptor, our platform, helping, school owners grow and scale and make their students better, which we've seen amazing success in, or my own personal students and teaching at our karate school here in Colorado. So I'd say I'm a dad first. I'm a business owner second. I'm probably a competitor third.
Mm. So how do you balance that? Like you're trying to grow the online training program, you're
Yeah.
competing, and you're teaching at the school. Obviously, teaching at the school is usually in the afternoons, right?
Yeah.
When the kids are
Yes,
home
sir.
from school. So how do you balance all that now?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's kind of intertwined together. The fact that, I'm a dad and I care about my kid and my students really helps me be a better coach and instructor. And the fact that I'm out teaching uh, and competing is a totally different element than most of the people that are out there. There's people that have their own martial arts like online program or training program or whatever, but they don't teach.
Hmm.
Just like there's consultants in the industry that are like, "Oh, this is how you should run a martial arts school," but they're never on the floor. They don't
Right.
actually teach, right? So they're talking from a place of, "Oh, this is what it was like when I did it," but they're not still actively doing it.
Sure.
Or maybe people have a curriculum and they're like, "Hey, I teach this or whatever," but they're not actively competing anymore. I'm still competing. I'm still going to these big NASCA tournaments. I think the fact that I can go out and still compete and do well shows that like what I'm doing, what I'm teaching and training in, it works. It's
Yeah.
relevant still today.
I'm gonna uh uh I'm going to kind of go on the opposite side of that in terms of arguing, in terms of argument, because I had that same argument to one of my friends, and he said to me, "Okay, Andy Reid, he just won like 3 Super Bowls in a row as a coach.
Yeah,
Does he play football? No, he used to play football, right? Does he look like he's athletic? No, right? Do you know what
sure.
I'm talking about? I don't know if you're a
Yeah,
football fan.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
So I feel like obviously if you've been in the sport and you're competing in the sport, you obviously have there's like a benefit to that. But even not, if you're able to kind of take a step back and look at the big wider view, then obviously you can be successful too as a coach, right? That
Absolutely.
made me think about it differently. So I'm like, yeah, Andy Reid
No,
kind of is like a big
absolutely.
slob.
Yeah, I think that like what I have to do is I wear multiple hats, right? So like if you want to be successful, you got to be a good martial artist first, right? Like you got to actually train. You can't be able to teach. I don't think you can teach martial arts if you're like you don't know martial arts. There's a lot of martial artists out there too that they don't train anymore. It's one thing I always tell our staff is like you should train more than you teach. You should still actively be training. You should still be running your forms and sparring and like getting out there and practicing. Like that's what keeps you sharp. So I think number one is you got to be able to do it, right? Uh, Number two is you got to be able to teach it. Not everybody that can do it can teach it.
Right.
It's kind of like you were saying. Some people are really great coaches, but they're not great athletes, maybe in their sport, right? And then the other facet is like the business side of it, right? Because I know a lot of guys that are phenomenal martial artists. They have a huge passion for martial arts and they're great teachers and they open a martial arts school and they're great at teaching and they're great at their skill, but they can't keep their business alive because they don't understand the business side of it too, right? So it's kind of like these different hats that you have to learn to wear. And I think you grow into that. I think like some people might be watching this or listening to that and they're like, well, I'm not the greatest martial artist. Well, that's okay. You can still train and practice and improve your skills. Or you might be a great martial artist, but you're not good at the business side. I have a friend who's an amazing friend. I won't say names right now because I don't know if they want their information out there, but they're in the stunt world and they're great stunt martial artists, stunt performer, very well known, right? But the problem is AI is kind of taking over, and that industry is kind of slowing down over the next few years. And this friend was like, I don't know, I might open a dojo. Like I might have to open a karate school because I never thought that this was going to happen, right? Amazing martial artist, great teacher, but knows none of the business side. So it's like you can kind of grow into those different areas as you pursue what your passion is. So if you're watching, like, don't think that you have to have all three of those things mastered because I don't either. Like, it's all something that I'm still growing in. But I think I want to flip the question back on you.
Yeah.
I said you got to be a good martial artist. You got to be able to teach it and break it down properly, right? And then you got to also have the business side of it. What side do you feel like is your strength and your weakness?
Yeah, I think for me, where I am right now, I think the business side is probably the most important. That's the part of me that I think most excites me, because the training part, or in terms of like teaching, like I love teaching, and I right now I teach once a week, and I love doing it when I get in there. Um, but I enjoy more teaching my staff and managing the staff. That's just where I'm at right now. In terms of training, kind of same thing where I was with that you were at, where I wanted a challenge. I've been doing karate, Kempo karate since I was 3 years old. And then one day I was in the martial arts store, and I was buying swords, right? And I was buying, 75 swords or something. And some guy's like, "What are you doing buying that?" And I was like, it's for my karate school." He's like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, have you ever done jiu-jitsu?" I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, you should come to my school." And I was like, "I've been thinking about doing something. Okay, cool, I'll do it." And then I've been training like, maybe 4 or 5 years now since then.
Sweet.
Um, yeah, so, and it was so, it helped the teaching that I do, it helped me tremendously. Like, extremely humbling, because I thought I was going to be better because I had martial arts experience. I didn't think I
Mhm.
was going to be amazing, but I thought I'd have like a little bit of an edge. And I was
Yeah.
like, almost like zero,
Yeah. It's
right?
like going from baseball to swimming. It's like
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
so different.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
anyone who like wrestled for like 1 year in high school will like kick my ass, right? Like,
Hmm.
so yeah, I think you do have to have some sort of training happening. Obviously, you don't necessarily need to be a competitor, but for me, like, I just love business. I think it's like a really fun game. I love being able to meet people and talk to people, and I know um, if I can do well in business and keep growing. Like, I had a friend, like an old high school friend who I talked to the other day, for after not really talking for a long time, and he was talking to me about how many employees I have, and I was like going over it. I'm like, "Well, at one school I got, six, and another school I got four," and he's like, "So you pay like, you pay them?" Like, "Yeah," and he's like, "So they depend on you to like live their lives?" I'm like, "Yeah," and it was like, honestly, I didn't think about it that way for a while because I've been so used to it. And it's like so cool that someone's livelihood come directly from the work that I'm doing every day, right?
Yeah.
And that part's just super exciting.
Well, it kind of goes
Um,
back to what you were saying too about you love teaching, but you love teaching your staff. It's almost like you love to see the growth in them. I kind of feel the same way. It's like you might have people, and for some school owners that are watching, maybe you don't have a whole lot of staff that's paid, right? Maybe you have
right.
no one, and you start with just volunteers, and that's pretty normal. And then maybe you add one guy or two people, and you kind of grow your bench and go from there. But when you start to see like the development in them and the confidence in them, and they kind of step into that leadership role and they start to take ownership, that's like one of the coolest things, man. It really
Yeah.
is.
I think at my core, I'm a teacher, right? That's why I do
Yes,
like,
sir.
Double Your Dojo, where I do coaching for teach martial arts schools how to grow their school organically. It's because I just love teaching. It's so fun. Like when
Hmm.
I get on a coaching call with a school, I just enjoy it. I get excited. I talk too fast, and I give them too many things to do at once. I'm like, "Oh God, okay, actually, let's take a step back a little bit. I have to stop. I have to put the brakes on a little bit." But yeah, I don't know, something about teaching and being up in front of a room. I'd like to do a little more public speaking. Like the podcast has really helped me, because after I record like we are right now, I'll put into a software, and it'll give me a transcript of the podcast, and I'll see all the times I use filler words. And the newer software, have you ever done this before or no?
No, it's
No, it's
interesting.
really cool. So the newer software, you can take out automatically all the filler words and do it by the word. So it'll say you said like 78 times. You said 97 times. You said blah blah blah, and you could
That's cool.
click a little checkbox and it'll just remove it like you never even said it. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Amazing software, but also very enlightening for me, because now I see how I'm actually speaking. I don't have to sit there and, write it down, right? It's just right in front of me.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I could see that making you a more effective communicator, right?
Yeah.
Which would help you in the public speaking.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really, really good.
I'm really focused on improving my storytelling, and which of course makes you a better business person, a better teacher. I have a long notes list on my phone. Anytime I read a book where it's like a really good story, I'll jot down some of the story, or I also keep a list of like my favorite quotes. It's enormous. It's
That's
like
cool.
hundreds of quotes. And on my Kindle, I highlight stuff constantly, and I'll go back look at it like once a week.
That's cool. That's
How do you
great.
keep who do you look for business mentorship? Like who do you look up to or who do you follow?
Oh man, Mike Chat was one of my coaches, like young coming up, and
Yeah.
he's amazing, and he's got a new platform. Shout out to him. You guys should all check that out and see some of the stuff that he's doing with some of his coaching online. You can follow him on Instagram. But man, Mike Chat is awesome. He's got some great coaching, some great mentor stuff that he's doing. Again, a good friend of mine, Jason Flame. He was one of my consultants years ago when I was kind of first growing my martial arts school. So he's a good friend that I can call and bounce ideas off. We actually have a book that we do, this daily reader, that it's 365 different chapters, right? Each day you read a different chapter, but it's all motivational stuff, business stuff that we kind of bounce back and forth. He'll send me
Yeah.
pictures. Hey, did you read this chapter today? What'd you think about this? How can we apply that to our business? So there's a lot of different mentors and people that I have in my life that I can kind of do that with. So it's kind of fun. And then it's cool for me now, the phase that I'm getting in, to be able to do that for other people now.
Very awesome.
Kind of coach,
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming on here today. If someone wants to follow you or get involved in Raptor, how do they find you?
Yeah, send me a message on Facebook or Instagram is the easiest way to get me. Usually I'm on there. Or you can email me at iteachkarate@gmail.com. It's pretty easy. I teach
That's easier
karate at
than
gmail.com.
getting the last name in there, I guess.
Yes, sir.
One more thing before we get off here. What's your favorite place you've ever traveled?
Oh man, I'd have to say Ireland.
Why
Ireland.
Ireland?
Oh, I loved it.
Why?
Most of the places I've traveled were for competing. I've been to Ireland, Germany, Spain, Scotland. I've been to like London was beautiful, Cardiff, Wales. I mean, I've been all over everywhere. I've been to so like martial arts has really blessed me and allowed me to do what I love to do and see the world.
Yeah.
But Ireland was just super cool. Just the rich history, seeing these 2,000-year-old castles and stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was super cool. It was a really cool experience. We were there for a world tournament. We got to go to Straight Blast Gym, which is Conor McGregor's gym. So we got to meet him and train with him actually and do some sparring stuff with him. And just experiencing the whole culture. I think we were there for about 2 weeks. If I could go back, man, Ireland's a spot. I think that was my favorite place to
Mm.
be.
Cool. Yeah, Ireland's been on my list because I have uh some clients I've worked with who have schools out in Ireland.
Yeah,
So I feel like I'll have places to go, or at least like friends around there. That'd be really cool.
you
So,
gotta go. You gotta check it out. It's so different too. The north and the south. It's almost like two different countries when you
hmm.
go. It's really cool.
What time of the
Um,
year? What time of the year do you go to Ireland?
Summer,
Summer. Summer
summer
here.
for sure. Yeah, summertime. Yeah, summer here, summer there, and you get a lot more daylight.
Hmm.
The weather's beautiful. It's sunny. There's rolling green hills. Summertime is like the time. So yeah, if you ever
Hmm.
get to go, brother, I know you'll love it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for recommending it. Thank you so much for coming on. My name is Matthew Brenner. I'm with the Double Your Dojo, and if you want to grow your school organically without depending on ads to float your school, reach out to me. I'll show you how to do the Triangle Codex. So you can grow your school organically year after year after year, not depend on a website or an amazing Facebook ad on its own. So thank you very much, Kevin. Catch you later. Bye.
Thank you, sir.